Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. And before we go any further, I am pleased to announce that from today moving forward, we are going to be producing these videos in association with Man versus Fat Football, where any man who feels they need to lose a little bit of weight, perhaps, but isn't confident doing it in different environments, they can do this with like-minded players. There are sites being set up in Gillingham and Chatham for anyone local to Gillingham fans. And I have been given a code that's kindly been donated by Man versus Fat. So if you subscribe and join up using the code Gills in the Blood, it will cost you just £1 rather than the normal price, which I think is $9.99 or a tenner. So it's well worth looking into. I will leave the details in the description at the end of this video. But the main purpose of tonight is to not talk about Man versus Fat. It is to talk about Gillingham versus Burton at the Pirelli Stadium this coming Saturday. And I'm very pleased to announce that I've been joined by Lower League guru, Burton Albion fan, co-host of the well-esteemed D3, D4 podcast, and that is Ed Walker. Ed, are you well?
I am very well, Matt. Hope you are as well.
Yes, I am. It's nearly Friday, so we can't complain. It's nearly the weekend, and Gills, after a week off, have got some football back. Right, let's crack straight into the nitty-gritty of the video, obviously, which is looking ahead to this game at the weekend. There is enough now to look at comparative form of the two sides over 6 games. It will be in all competitions at the moment until we played half a dozen league games. But Burton's first 6 in all competitions has earned them 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Gills' last 6 has earned them 2 wins, 2 draws, and you guessed it, 2 defeats. Home and away, Burton have picked up a couple of wins, a couple of draws, and a solitary defeat in all competitions. And on the road, Gills picked up their first win Tuesday evening in the much maligned stuffed crust pizza trophy. Before that, it was a couple of defeats and a couple of draws, albeit with penalty shootout win and a penalty shootout defeat. Ed, come to you before we go any further. How have you assessed the start to the season for Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's men?
It has been strong, but a little bit unsure about the last 2 games. The first 3 games were 3 straight wins, having beaten Shrewsbury away on the opening day, then beaten Ipswich and Sunderland, who were 2 of the early promotion favourites. So there was a lot to be encouraged about there. The following 3 league games have been against 3 of the 4 newly promoted sides in Cambridge United, Cheltenham Town and Bolton Wanderers. And whilst they've managed to take 2 points from those games, the performances have generally felt a bit off compared to recently. Whether injuries or squad harmony is still playing a little bit of a part in that, it's not sure. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag so far, and I don't think we're quite sure yet about how exactly this season is going to go. There's a hope that it can return to the winning form sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you look like you've copied my notes, to be fair, or read my notes at least, because I wrote down, I put notable wins against Ipswich 2-1, notable win against Sunderland, clean sheet, 1-0 victory, and then winless in 3 in the league against, no disrespect to sides that on paper at least were probably easier. You take out Shrewsbury, they're struggling, I get that, but
I think Bolton are going to have a very good season as well.
Yeah, they look the part, certainly going forward. I think defensively they need to just tighten up a little bit if they want to, really push into the top 6. I know they had them 2-3 all draws at the start of the season, and as much as it's fun to watch as a neutral, I'm sure Ian Everett's probably tearing his hair out at times. But yeah, certainly on paper, Cheltenham and Cambridge were very winnable games, considering you'd already beaten Ipswich Town and Sunderland. So they're probably a little bit disappointing. But at the same time, if you're not at your best and you're still picking up points, it's no bad sign, is it? I think you're still unbeaten in the league.
Still unbeaten at home. The only defeat so far in the league was away at Cambridge, which was a bit of a shocker 3-0, to be honest, where Cambridge won 3-0 and had 2 shots on goal. There were 2 own goals in that game, so it felt a bit of a real off day.
That was the one, yeah.
Very weird day, that one. Very odd.
And you boss possession, boss chances created, boss shots on target, and
yeah, well, when Cambridge have where to land, you can't sleep on them. That's the problem.
True. No, he's still doing it even at 39 years of age, and I'm 39 and I'm still plodding around Sunday League. But to still be doing it in League One as a professional is absolutely fantastic. I'm sure you enjoy watching him. Like I say, you're big on your League One and your League Two, but obviously for 90 minutes you probably hated him.
What can you do?
Exactly. You just have to admire the talent and the longevity of a player like that. In terms of the season, you said you're not sure how it's going to pan out, and it is still very early. I get that. I've said that on every match preview this campaign so far. I did a preview show back before the campaign started. I'd Burton 13th. Do you think that's a fair assumption?
I felt the same. I thought there was a realistic chance to be pushing towards the top of the bottom half, which I think would be good. Because Burton, for me, with the business they've done, is building something that could be good 2 to 3 years down the line. There's a chance they could compete. You've seen the early games that they look like someone who could maybe be a handful to the oppositions. Whether it plays out in the whole campaign, we'll have to see. But I would not be surprised with a finish in the top of the bottom half, which I don't think is bad for that club anyway.
No, and certainly after the first half of last season, when
absolutely
you were as good as gone, everyone said that. You said that. Yep. I remember listening to you on D3, D4, and following you on Twitter, and you said Jake Buxton had to go for the sake of himself, but more importantly,
doomed. Whole place
for the sake of the Brewers, because you were relegation fodder, and obviously your first win under Hasselbank came at the Priestfield. But no, you were very good that day, well organised, and you get that as a bare minimum from Jimmy and from Dino, and that run of form from there up until probably the last sort of month, 6 weeks of the season, when potentially just run out of steam a little bit. And I think not run out of steam, that's probably the wrong word. But the job has been done, and there was so much effort in
there was no need to worry about it too much.
Safe, that you just sort of, to coin a phrase, you might have been on the beach a little bit, but I don't think
felt
there
it
was
on the
one
last day,
fan that killed. In terms of the Gills, we need to talk about them a little bit. It's a sole win in the league at the moment. That was against a very disciplined and a very organised Morecambe outfit, who I keep sort of bigging up on every show. I can't help but talk about them. They were very good. They caused us problems, certainly for 20 minutes after the equaliser, but I think Gills probably did enough that day. The opening day draw with Lincoln was good. We probably bossed them from half hour onwards. Probably should have won the game. Dane Oliver missed a great chance in the second period. Plymouth, we were all right for 45 minutes, according to the people that went. Didn't turn up second half. I went to Wimbledon. We got away with it massively. I'm not being funny. It was pants down.
I felt the same at Bolton on Monday, trust me. I know what you mean.
Oh, everyone a drink, and a 98th minute equaliser, courtesy of an 18-year-old right back who'd only been on 10 minutes, deflecting off the centre half and going in what I can only describe as slow motion. But you take them points, don't you? Sometimes you just
absolutely
have to, and take the point and run. Shrewsbury, good for 40 minutes until Ryan Jackson went off, and then we had no pace, we had no outlet. We stopped being able to push them back. It's just been, I think, and there's a lot, and certainly yourselves as well. You've had big injury problems, certainly in forward areas. You've got Lewis Malt, who's out. It looks like till the turn of the year.
Yeah.
Kane Emmings only came back Monday night and lasted an hour. He's missed the first portion of the season. There's others as well, but obviously key areas where you want to score goals, and obviously all the sort of fanfare that came with the Malt signing, that must be a huge disappointment.
Yeah, it was a real one. Staffordshire boy, first time coming into Burton on Trent. There was a hope that he'd be really good competition for Hemmings, potentially the starter. He's going to end up doing like a January signing basically now, because of the way he's come back into fitness. He got a pretty nasty injury in pre-season, which we all saw wasn't good for him. And so unfortunate, well, he's had previous with it, to be honest. About his time at Preston North End, I think he was out of action for going on maybe 2 years, really a long period out there, probably the reason why he's dropped down to League One in the first place. But they've strengthened in that area with some new signings to cover the depth whilst he's unavailable. And then the other key injuries have been in sort of deeper midfield. I don't think you'd say the starters have been available. Tom O'Connor, who's brought stability to Gills stands, has been quite a solid starter to his campaign at Burton. I really like the look of him, and he's out injured at the moment, similar to people like Michael Mancian and Deji Oshalaja as well. So we're lucky numbers in two key areas at the moment. Yeah.
So both former Gills are unlikely to play then?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure on the injury front of whether who's back available or not. I mean, I haven't heard news yet. There might be a bit more tomorrow, but it's looking like it's going to be a bit depleted in those defensive midfield positions for sure.
Be interesting one to keep on, because Tommy O'Connor was very good for us, and the versatility was great. He played left back, can play as a wing back, he played left side of a diamond in 1920 predominantly, and was very good there as well. And I was quite disappointed that we didn't. Well, we might have got in for him, but we certainly didn't make more of an effort to try and get him back. So I think he's a very good player at this level, and we all know how League One runs with the smaller teams and the smaller budgets that one manager, not yours, likes to talk about. People that can play 2 or 3 positions at a push are like gold.
Absolutely. That's been Burton's way for years, going back under Nigel Clough. It was all about having players capable in positions. You got someone like Lucas Akins, who's played everywhere outfield for Burton. Number of players in this team now who could probably go in a centre back or a full back or a midfield role. Forwards who could go across the front line as well. It's really needed to these clubs that don't have the bigger budgets at this level.
Yeah, and we've got one in Robbie Mckenzie, who I think's played. We missed pre-season. I think he's played left back, right back, left wing back, then popped up with a winner Tuesday night as well from fullback. I think last season he played as a number 10 at Rochdale, scored in a 4-1 win, but it's not something I'd say he needs to be doing all the time when you've got a Carl Dempsey or an Oliver Lee or a Ben Reeves available for selection. But yeah, they're invaluable for any manager in League One. Other injuries for the Gills, we've had Alex McDonald made his comeback Tuesday night, got 80 minutes, which I was quite surprised about. I didn't see him getting any more than an hour. He's missed all of pre-season. He was very good second half of last year when we briefly flirted with the playoffs, albeit having played more games than everyone else around us. John Akindi has played 45 minutes. David Tatonda signed, did a week's pre-season, then missed 3 weeks because of COVID. Robbie Mckenzie, like I say, missed all the pre-season. Ben Reeves was very truncated and stop-start. And Verdane Oliver was at Shrewsbury weekend before last and should have been nowhere near the squad if we'd had another fit striker because he could barely run on a twisted ankle. So fingers crossed, the enforced break and the Charlton postponement from our point of view has done us really good.
Yeah.
And hopefully a couple of your key players are not available.
Well, I mean, we've been having to cope with Cameron Borthwick-Jackson, who's more naturally a left-back, formerly, of course, was that seen as this real superstar at Manchester United. Never happened for him. He's been on a lot of loan spells, was at Oldham Athletic under Dino Mamri, which is part of the reason he's come in. He's been playing defensive midfield at the minute, and he looks like a left-back playing defensive midfield, to be honest. It's not his natural position. You'd rather have a wide putting deliveries in, and then it's been a bit of a deeper line player, someone like Bryn Morris maybe alongside him, or other players who are available. There are options in there, but I'd still say the main starters in that position are lacking at the moment, and that's probably the weakest area of the team current with availability.
Okay, so that takes me nicely on to the next subject, and that's predicted lineups. What do you think how can you see Jimmy Floyd setting you up if you've got so many injuries? Because it sounds very much like square pegs, round holes at the moment from your point of view, which I like to say will probably benefit us. But then the flip side of that is, that if you've got a team that's being set up and a bit back to the wall, and we all know that we're not playing in the right position, the tendency is to, subconsciously give an extra 20, 30% and make it difficult for teams to play against you. So I'm not sure it's entirely a given that it means it's going to help us out from a Gills perspective. But what do you think the 11 could be?
Well, the other problem we've got is that John Braither picked up 2 yellows at Monday night on Bolton. The club captain, the starting right back, he's played right back every game so far this season. So he'll be out. So that will probably see Tom Hamer come across from left back into right back where he's more natural. So I think most of this team should be as it is. Ben Garrett will be the keeper. I've no doubt about that whatsoever. He'll be in goal. Tom Hamer, I think, will play right back. I believe Ryan Leake's still out injured, so you're probably looking at maybe continuing from Bolton with Connor Shaughnessy and Michael Bostwick as the 2 centre-back options. That may possibly put Fraser Blake-Tracy as the left-back option. He was the one who was brought on when Braither was sent off and Haber went across to right back. He came on at left-back and they basically just defended to their lives for that final 5 minutes or so just to hang on for that point. Midfield, I think he'll probably persist with Borthwick-Jackson. They seem to see something in him there. We've got one of the new signings, Charlie Lakin, who's come in on a permanent deal from Birmingham City for 3 years. So he's going to get the chance to show what he's about in that position as well. Then the front line should hopefully be as strong as it can be. You'll have Lucas Akins always in the team. He'll be on the left-hand side. I would imagine Johnny Smith's going to play on the right again, coming in from the left. I would have thought with the availability, it's probably Joe Powell in attacking midfield, although we have announced the loan signing of Harry Chapman at the end of the transfer window from Blackburn Rovers, who had a very good time at Shrewsbury Town last season. I think he might be a bench option to start. There's a nice option to have either Powell or Chapman in that position, but I think he might persist with Powell so far because he's played longer. And then probably Kane Hemmings up top, who hopefully can have a bit more fitness and have a bit of an easier game to do against Bolton, because against Ricardo Santos, it just wasn't a battle he was going to win.
Yeah, especially, that's a tough battle at the best of times.
Exactly.
Coming off
for most strikers. I'd love to see Verdane Oliver against him. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that could be. It'd be interesting. I'm still not sure. I think last season we all know the fan hub app and we can do the predictor. I think Gills were one of the easiest to predict last
Probably
season.
Probably
were. 10 or 11 out of 11 every week, especially after Christmas. But such has been the injury crisis. I think I've been excited if I've got 7 or 8 right on a weekly basis at the moment. But I'd imagine Jamie coming a starting goal for us. I did put a poll out on Twitter over the last couple of days because I think Aaron Chapman's been very good in the 3 cup games that he's played, albeit against much chained opposition. But he's the only keeper out of the 2 that's kept a clean sheet this season. There's a big doubt over Ryan Jackson. He pulled a thigh or a hamstring at Shrewsbury, so whether Saturday comes too soon, I'm not sure. But if there's any doubt over him, I'd play Robbie Mckenzie at right back, David Tatonda at left back. Hasn't started the best this season, but like I say, missed three weeks of the summer. you've got to give him time. You can't be writing him off after 6 weeks of the season. That's ridiculous. So I'd start him on the left. Max Amar and Jack Tucker will be the centre backs, I'm sure. Said on Tuesday after the game that we were very, very brave on the ball and looked very threatening when we went to 4-4-2 second half against Colchester. Literally 2 banks of 4 and 2 centre forwards like the olden days. But whether Steve Evans and Paul Rayner are brave enough to do that and lose a midfielder against a better side than Colchester, no disrespect to them, I'm not so sure. So I think we might go 4-2-3-1 if we finally got 2 wingers that are fit enough. So I'd go Stuart O'Keefe and Cole Dempsey in the middle if both are available. Ben Reeves was very good second half. Colchester come on and helped change the game Tuesday evening. So I'd be inclined to give him a start in the 10. And then fingers crossed we go Danny Lloyd and Mustafa Carriol from the sides and Big V up top. We've got a few options from the bench now. It looks like they're starting to come back. Oh, Daniel Phillips is suspended, obviously, after his red card after that battle royal at the end of the game at Shrewsbury a couple of weekends ago.
That was eventful. That was interesting.
Yeah, it was a strange one. The keeper was brave, to be fair.
He was quite brave. I couldn't believe he was doing that.
I think he's got a statue built in Lincoln for sure.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, it was mentioned a few times. I know the Stacey West put it out, and then everybody sort of seemed to reply. My notifications went bad for a couple of days. But bench, I'd imagine, would be Chapman. I'd put Reece Bennett on there to cover right back and centre back if there's any doubts over Jackson. Alex McDonald, Ollie Lee, Daniel Adseed, who's been decent, the kid who's on loan from Norwich, but I just think I'd like some experience in the middle of the park. Charlie Kelman, decent debut again in the week, but I'd start him on the bench, and hopefully John Akindi's fit enough to be on the bench. So that'd give us some good options everywhere. But he seems to have favoured the diamond this season. We've then played a back 3 for a couple of games, which he's virtually never done the whole time he's been in charge. I think he did it once in his first season at Oxford.
I can't think of Steve Evans in back 3s. That doesn't feel right to me.
It hasn't been. I think we've done it once prior to this season. We played a back 3 at Oxford. The first campaign he was there. Okay. We had our first shot on target in the 89th minute and we were 3-0 down inside 25 minutes. So fingers crossed it's not something that we persist with in the long term. We was all right against Shrewsbury doing it for 40 minutes, but again, Shrewsbury were really struggling. Ultimately, time will tell, and we'll wait till 2 p.m. on Saturday and see how correct we are. It could be completely different. And like I say, it's been so difficult to pick teams this season. I had a look at previous results in the 3 years back since you came back down to this level. Generally, it's been tight at your place. 18-19, I think, was a bit of a smash and grab. We won 3-2.
I remember. I remember that game.
Yeah,
really annoyed.
Josh Reese last minute. Yeah,
remember that. I'm really annoyed coming out of that because we dominated so well, pulled it back to 2-2, and then you get a throw and just win it at the end. And I'm just thinking, for goodness sake.
Yeah, the games when you think,
really frustrating.
Why don't I support cricket teams?
Exactly.
And then the last 2 seasons have been draws. It was 0-0 in 19-20, and it was 1-1. It was the final. Your final home game, our final away game of last season, and I think it was Jordan Graham opened the scoring from us after your centre back switched off.
Stoppage time, Ryan Broom equalised.
Ryan Broom equalised with a good finish, yeah. So they're always tight. I think they've been tight at our place as well. If I remember a 2-1 win for you a couple of seasons ago. Obviously beat us by 1 last season, so there never seems to be more than a goal in it. And it should be a good game between 2 honest sides that'll be doing all they can. It'll be a battle. I'm sure it'll be ugly and a bit nitty at times, and
definitely. Oh, definitely.
See how it comes out and who comes out on top if any team come 5 o'clock. Right. Leads me on to the big question of the video. And I have to ask it every time. And that is, what is your score prediction?
I hate doing these.
Yeah, so do I.
You always tempt fate with it, don't you? I kind of think they're going to do it. Get the job done. I can't think they will. The situation with Gillingham, from my experience looking in, I don't know the full ins and outs, you'll know better than I, but it just seems to all be not going in the right direction at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
With matters on off the pitch. I felt like there was quite a bit of criticism about the transfer window, maybe not to the best level that it could be. I don't know what the situation with Steve Evans in the future at the minute.
Yes and no. I see D3, D4 put their article out, didn't they? And they said,
yeah, James
I think someone commented. I know James had us as one of the losers, and that's fair enough. We probably didn't get enough in. The way I see it is the players we've got in, I think, are decent League One players.
No, I agree with that, definitely.
On the whole, I think he was clever that he went with more experience from the summer this year, because last season he went with a lot of kids that were on loan, didn't really work out. The Trey Coyles, the Zach Medleys, Scott Robertsons, Josh Eccles, Declan Drysdales. There was plenty that were very, very young, and we just looked very brittle for the first 4 months of the season, especially when Stuart O'Keefe broke his Leicester and missed all of the first half of the campaign. So I don't think it was as bad as maybe outsiders are saying. I was certainly disappointed we didn't get more in on deadline day. I would have liked another winger, and I would have liked a left back. But then, and everyone's probably seen our video that we did last week regarding the chairman. But I did a bit of research on the back of that, and I think there was, in terms of the numbers that Steve Evans had at the end of the summer transfer window for his 3 seasons in charge, I think it was 21, 22 and 20. So there's not a huge deal of difference.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we're a couple short. And I think it's probably a little bit imbalanced. I think we could have probably maybe gone with a Daniel Phillips or a Daniel Adseed on loan, and then maybe got a left back on loan just to give us another senior left back as an option, because the only one we've got behind Tatonda at the moment is a 17-year-old. But as fans, we're always greedy, aren't we? That's the thing. We always want one or two more.
That's very true.
And Steve Evans has always said since he's come in is that he's never going to sign people for the sake of it. He's never going to run with a big squad, because you end up annoying too many, essentially, that can't get in the 18. But at the same time, if you've only got 20 senior pros, you only need to lose 1 or 2 through injury and or suspension, and that's your match day squad, because you've got no wiggle room then. And then the chairman stuff as well has been on top of it. I think I said on our video that maybe we've just got away from the football a little bit, because there's been so much other stuff going on that we've kind of forgotten. We are only 5 games in. It's like everyone says you've had a good start, for instance, and I looked at the table, but if we beat you on Saturday and win our game in hand, we'll have the same points.
It's too early to take anything really seriously.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, of course.
Too early.
So just the point I'm making is that everyone said about a belting start, and apparently we're struggling, but it soon, like you said, it's so early that you win 2 on the bounce and you end up jumping up half the league, or if you lose 2 on the spin, you go from the playoffs and suddenly, we're in a relegation battle or whatever. It's mad. You need to start looking after a dozen games. Anyway, tangent finished. Score prediction.
I'm going to go with a 1-0 Burton win. I feel like they've got enough about them. I completely agree. This is going to be tight. It's going to be a battle. If you're a neutral coming to good football, I'd suggest you turn away and head somewhere else, because I'm not expecting that at all. I know we're known to the direct sides. I know we've got quite a lot of criticism that neither of us really care, do we? Because it was getting the results, it was doing the job.
Exactly. If you're winning football matches, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. That's the way I feel as well. I'm expecting quite a battle. Steve Evans, you'll probably know, doesn't have the best reputation with Burton fans. We quite like getting one over him. Dates back to his time in non-league.
Most fans say that to me, to be fair. I've not had an opposition fan that's come on and gone, I love Steve Evans.
Must be someone, Rotherham fan or something, will say that maybe at some point. I don't know.
He even got abused at Crawley, and he done really well with him. So maybe, we're running out of options.
There'll be someone out there who likes him, but it's one we quite like getting one over. I think, the problem for Burton isn't so much it's the numbers, it's having the availability. With a full strength squad, the options are fantastic in depth. There's a couple of people missing, of course, through injury and the suspension of John Braithwaite, but I feel like they've addressed that in the transfer window. This could be the start of seeing maybe Daniel Jefferson coming up top if Kane Hemmings doesn't start instead. He's an England youth international loan from Sheffield United. Quite a high-profile loan signing for the season. Excited to see how that goes. People will be hoping for his debut on Saturday. I think Burton might do enough. They're very good at grinding out these 1-0 results. It's a very typical Hasselbank scoreline, and I think they might be able to do it again. So I'm going to go with the 1-0 win.
Fair enough. I'd have probably tended to agree if this was coming on the back of the Shrewsbury defeat, if we hadn't had the benefit of 2 weeks off in the league afterwards because of the Charlton postponement, and the fact that we've now got a few more options than we did this time last week. So I'm going to be positive from a Gills perspective, and I'm going to say 1-0, because we've not lost up there in the last 3 years. There you go, I've jinxed it now. Red card, 4-0 down at half time. No, I'm going to say 1-0.
We don't do 4-0s.
No, I don't think we do either, to be fair. And I'm going to back Verdane Oliver to score our goal. So, 1-0.
Well, I think back to Verdane Oliver when he was at Northampton a couple of years back now. They came to us in the FA Cup and he slaughtered us. Absolutely battered us. That Northampton team, the Keith Curle with Verdane Oliver at top, were the perfect counter to what they were trying to play under Clough, and they just battered us silly in that game. And I've been wary of Verdane Oliver pretty much ever since then, and it's not surprised me that he still dominates the aerial duels like he does.
Oh, it's a joke. The figures I see James put out and we trying to do on the third tier. He's like, I think last year he ended up like 300 or something ridiculous over anyone else over the second place one, which is a phenomenal stat. And I did a little tweet on him a couple of days ago, or today I think it might have been, and yeah, he wins 65-70% of his aerial battle, so he's winning 2 in 3. So you know you're going to be up against it as a centre half.
Yeah,
could be a good battle with your two. Michael Bostwick, I've liked for donkey's years. He's probably in the veteran stage of his career now. But I remember when he was at Peterborough a few years ago and thought he was absolutely superb. Would have loved him to come to Gills, but Peterborough were probably paying him too much for what we could offer. Yeah, certainly has all the makings of being an interesting battle. Probably won't be first on Quest, I'd imagine.
We say that it could be a live floor. You never know. It's football. You can never be entirely sure, can you?
I'll send you 20 quid.
You're on.
Right, Ed, it's been a real pleasure. I really enjoyed that, mate. Thank you for all the insight that we need regarding the Brewers ahead of Saturday. Gills fans, you know where we are. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on YouTube. Get commenting down below on the video. Unfortunately, I can't make it to the Pirelli on Saturday. Everyone who is travelling up, enjoy. Sing loud, sing proud. Get behind the boys. Most important thing for them 90 minutes is trying to earn us 3 points. I will return on Monday looking back at whatever the result is. Fingers crossed it's positive. Once again, thanks to Ed. You can find him at D3D4 on Sunday mornings. They record, always worth a listen. And I will put his Twitter details, like I say, in the description of this video. But until next time, up the Gills.